Hello, everybody. This is John. Welcome to the Ag Weather Outlook, March 5th, 2016. Well, we're definitely now getting into this transition, and I watch this incredibly close because how we get anomalies this time of year can have a really big impact, either positive or negative. So lots of things to look at. First of all, over the last week, over many areas, it was quiet. But this can be deceiving. Some of these areas of green had quite a bit of snow in just some localized spots, but overall it was fairly quiet. If we look at percent of normal, we can see a lot of yellow and red, and those were areas where precipitation was less than normal. But that streak of blue here, that is the streak where we had some enhanced precipitation in the form of snow, and you can see it here, right here, especially the green and orange. And really the blue, especially over Michigan, quite a bit of heavy snow. But Wisconsin, central Wisconsin, parts of northeast Iowa, surrounding states, some significant snow last week. Now, the snow we get this time of year, as you know, can be a wet snow, but it can also usually melts fairly quickly. So what we don't want to see is a widespread snow. Now, this narrow band of snow, that's more manageable. That'll melt. But if we would get a really widespread snow and then rain on top of that, that's not what we'd want to see. So when we look at the snow on the ground, we see that first shade of blue there. That's over, roughly in the 2 to 4 inch range. Medium shade of blue, that's around 4 inches in northern Illinois. Parts of Wisconsin also 4 inches of snow. Parts of northeast Kentucky as well. Now, if we look at how much water equivalent is in there when that melts, about a ½ inch in that area. So right now it's not excessive, and that is expected to melt fairly quickly. So I don't think that's going to stay on the ground. You can actually see that right now. It's beginning to work its way along the southern edges and the western edges. Areas in red are active melt. That area in red there in orange, that's between 2 and 0.5 inches per day of melt. So you can see it just take about a day to melt that snow off, 2 days, depending on how much the temperatures we get. And I'm going to show you here, like I set out this past week, major trend change of warmer temperatures. So that's going to be gone very quick. Now rivers, I want to keep an eye on. Rivers are running high due to repeated snow and rain, which is, again, that's typical this time of year. But yellow is strong within bank flows, and the orange is representing a minor flood stage. So this is not unusual. We get a little bit into moderate flood stage or more widespread, it would be, but rivers are high, and I want to keep an eye on that because I'm going to be talking about some heavy rain, and some of these areas we could get some additional flooding. One of the things I'm sure is very important to you is how wet soils are, and I think a good way to look at this is we do not need additional rain in areas where we see the darker green or blue. We would need additional rain significantly where we see some of that yellow, especially the brown and red. And so right now, the analysis is, generally speaking, most areas have enough rain. We don't need more heavy rain, except for maybe the Dakotas, the far upper Midwest, that's trending dry. But Iowa, most of Nebraska, most of Minnesota, all of Wisconsin, majority of Illinois, and then even the eastern Corn Belt, which had been dry, has adequate soil moisture, so we want to be careful we don't get too much, and that's going to be a concern as we go forward. So when we look at the polar source region, which I've been tracking for the last couple months, there is some cold air up there, but you can see that we also have a very, very broad area of unusually warm air, and that's going to be what's working from the west to the east, and that's going to be really the big story as far as temperature goes. And the Arctic Oscillation, these periods of winter, 1, 2, 3, you can sort of see as we got into mid-January, we went from these ones that lasted 2 to even 4 weeks now to alternating back and forth. We're getting into 7. 6 was this cold spell we had. Now we're getting into 7, which is going to be a positive Arctic Oscillation, and that's going to be a warm spell. I also think this one's going to be longer than the last ones. Now, when we go from this point to this point, through this transition, that's when we get the stormy weather, and that's what's going to occur this week over parts of the area. Now look at the jet stream here. The jet stream is bowing up to the north. When we see shades of brown here on this image, that means the jet stream's further north than normal. And look at the temperatures here in the day 1 to 5 frame. We're looking at temperatures anywhere from 5 degrees up to 10 degrees, and even in a few spots we could even be approaching 15 degrees above normal over the central plains. Now, with that warmer air pushing in, there's going to be a transitional boundary. We're going to have some cooler air still to the east, the warmer air pushing in from the west, and this is precipitable water, and you hear me talk about that a lot. Precipitable water is the total amount of water in the atmosphere. It's not just at the Earth's surface, but it's all the way up. And you might say, why do I have interest in that? Because if your atmosphere is saturated with moisture, you can get heavier rain. So this is an image on Wednesday, and what you can see here, these arrows here are saying we're streaming Gulf moisture all the way up here into the eastern Corn Belt. And that's another sign of spring when we start to pull moisture way up to the north. So we're seeing more and more signs of spring. This high pressure here, very strong high pressure, is pushing that up, and we're going to have a boundary right in here, and that's where we have this really incredible precipitable moisture right in this area, and consequently we're going to have very heavy rain. Now I can't say exactly where it'll be, it's been shifting a bit, but models have been very consistent in bringing this heavy rain anywhere from eastern Texas, especially across Arkansas, southern Missouri, southeast Missouri, and then most likely into parts of Illinois, Indiana on east. So, but they're going to taper off. They won't be quite as heavy in there, but it still looks like over southern Illinois in particular, parts of Indiana and Ohio, it looks like we could be getting anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain, and in some cases maybe even heavier. So let's keep an eye on that for the very heavy rain. Now let's go out looking a little bit further out, March 10th through 15th. We still see the jet stream bowing to our north. We start to get a little bit of a split jet stream here. There's a little bit of energy down here that could keep us wet in spots. And look at temperatures 6 to 10 days out. We're looking at, that looks to me like a good average 10 degrees, and in some cases up to 15 degrees above normal. This is going from March 10th through 15th. And then if we look out a little bit further here, 15th through 20th, not so much a strong jet stream, but still above normal temperatures. And that's why I sent out that trend alert last week, just giving you a heads up. I put out trend alerts when I see very significant changes, wet, dry, cold, or warm. I want you to be the very, very first to know of these trend changes, and I think you will be. So I sent this out at least a week in advance, telling you that we're going to get into this significantly warm period. Now, I do have some concern here of wet weather. Now, hopefully it won't overlap the rain that we get this week that is more perhaps right in here. But it's a little bit close to call, but it is showing some wet conditions in here. So one of the concerns I have is hopefully we're not getting in too wet of a pattern heading into the start of planting over some of these areas. So let's keep an eye on this. This is week 2. That's way out there, but let's just keep an eye on that right now. Wanted to pass that along. So I do have an alert this week. Heavy rain over parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. The trends, though, are a warm spell, much above normal temperatures right into the middle part of the month. And let's keep an eye on that trending for above normal rainfall next week as well. If you have any questions, or if you like my briefings, if you listen to them, they help you, here's my email. I like to hear from you all just to see what's going on. And let's track this rain, agweatheradvisor.com/radar. I use that myself. Lots of different things on there to track the rain. So keep an eye on it. And I will probably be sending out more information on this rainfall as we head into the new week. Take care.